You are about to opt in to Monerotopia, a show for the Monero community where all are welcome to join. From noob to maxi, no matter what bags you hold. Just sit back and relax to the sweet sounds of Monero's latest progress. Or if you're feeling inspired, join us on stage. Remember, the only thing that can stop Monero is a false belief that it can be stopped. And if you want to win the revolution faster, we recommend you remove your XMR from all custodial exchanges immediately. Warning, voting accidents are common around here. Don't forget to properly secure your private keys. Monerotopia starts now. Aloha, my friends.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Cheers.
Happy Saturday. Aloha. Happy Saturday to all you people out there that are watching us or listening to us on Spaces.
We're drinking our Colombian.
Yeah, the
coffee.
Colombian coffee.
It's really good,
tasty,
guys.
yeah.
It's really good.
Just got a new batch, I guess, earlier this week.
Sneeze.
Achoo! Blessed.
That wasn't from the coffee. Yeah, no, it's really good. It's got like a little sweetness.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
It has a little sweetness to it.
But
It's really good. It's very tasty.
So now we have the Guatemalan farm, but we currently don't have any of those beans in stock because we're waiting for them to finish the harvest. Although we might abandon them altogether, we'll see, right? We'll see how that goes.
Yeah,
it's been a little bit of a struggle working with them, which is why we set out to get other farms. And now we have a Colombian farm on board, which they're pretty awesome. We met them through somebody in the crypto community that lives down in Colombia, and he really helped us out. He got the farm on board. We haven't given them their wallets yet for tips. So for now, any coffee that's bought that comes from the Colombian farm, it's just going to go all into a wallet. So there will be some trust involved, but we're not in the business of stealing Colombian farmers 50-cent tips. I promise you that. So there is, but initially there's gonna be some trust involved. But then we're gonna be headed down to Colombia at some point, and we will distribute the wallets to the workers on that farm, and then we will, transfer any tips that they received at that point, and hopefully we continue to work with them. And then there's a Mexican farm, that we visited when we went down to Mexico when we found the venue.
Lots of mosquito bites.
Oh my god, we went into the jungle, straight up into the jungle, guys.
I was wearing a dress, guys. I didn't expect
the coffee farm is on in a jungle on a mountainside.
It was huge,
crazy.
Yeah. It's pretty nuts.
And that coffee we're working on. We haven't had it shipped to us yet, but we're going to have the first batch of it going at Anarchopoko, actually.
Yes.
We were talking about that, I think, 2 weekends ago.
Yeah, 2 weekends ago.
We're going to have Neil, who does our roasting. He's going to be down at Anarchopoko representing us. I can't go because of my ankle. Sunita is not going to go without me, I don't think.
No, I'm not doing that. I'll go to Mexico during the conference.
I don't know if I'd want you down in Anarchopoko without me, to be honest.
Woo! It's an interesting site. It was fun when we went. It was really
it's
nice.
amazing.
Yeah, we met a lot of cool people. It was fun. We had a great time.
Very cool vibe. Open-minded, cool people. So there's going to be, we worked out a deal with them, Anarchopoko. So they're going to have a table at Monerotopia. In exchange, they basically gave us a table at Anarchopoko, which is going to be a Monero table. So we're representing the Monero community down there. Neil's going to be down there. He'll be doing the coffee thing, but he's also going to be onboarding people to Monero. Having them download Monero.com or Cake Wallet and sending them some Monero. That should be cool. We're working on some other ideas with them. Might do something with the mural we were talking about.
Yeah. Lots of plans, for
lots of things, man. We keep going. So that's an Anarchopoko. If you're going to be down there, definitely come over to the Monero Talk table and say Monerotopia table or whatever we're calling it table and say hello. Actually, if you're going to be down there, reach out to us beforehand so we can put you in touch with Neil. Maybe you want to hang out with him a little bit, help him out. He's going to need some help, especially if he's onboarding people to Monero.
Yeah, so email us at contact@gratuitous.org.
Yeah, you don't have to sit at the table the whole time. I mean, Anarchopoko, I think, is like 6 days. It's like 2 weeks.
No,
I don't know.
It's
like
2
goes on
weeks.
forever.
It's 2 weeks.
So at some point, if you want to hang at the Monero table and help for a few hours here and there, reach out to us. We'll put you in touch with Neil. Otherwise, just go say hello to him when you're down there. I'm sure you'll work it out.
Sure, he'll be excited.
What else? Monerotopia.
What else?
Monerotopia's coming along.
Monerotopia. It's coming along. Yeah.
Kind of ignore the website a little bit. It's in transition. We're fixing it up. We apologize. But we did add, if you scroll down.
Well, we want to announce also his like beautiful flyer.
Yeah,
Sidarta.
that's what I want to say. So I'll open that. Can you like you should show the full.
Yeah, I can. I probably can. Give me a second. Just keep talking.
Yeah, so we Sidarta made a beautiful flyer for us. For those in the Monero community that don't know Sidarta, he's kind of like the, I don't know, Monero artist of Monero. He does amazing work. He did the privacy protest flyer for us, the protest that never happened. But we gave it another shot. So now he made us this flyer. Obviously, we pay him for his work. He does amazing work. And it's beautiful. And so the idea with the flyer, I put it on the website, but we also want to maybe get this out and about in Mexico City. Try to get it hung up, at least at the venue, around the venue. The venue, I think, as we explained here, is like a community center. So it could be cool hanging the poster outside along the outside of the venue. Maybe get somebody, posting them up around town. I don't know how that works in Mexico City, but it should be possible. You're not able to bring it up.
I'm trying to right now. It's just using a different platform. So
okay. So yeah, he'll we'll see if you reach out to us for that. So if you're in Mexico City and you want to help hang up some posters, I know it sounds like kind of maybe not the most productive thing to do, but you'd be surprised. Every little bit helps. It'd be cool to have them out there, out and about. And then so part of the idea of Monerotopia is to make the conference super accessible. So accessible to the Monero community itself. That's why the General Assembly, our general access ticket is, we're keeping it capped at $99. So I mean, compared to other crypto conferences,
it's really cheap. Yeah, really cheap. Here's a flyer,
and we won't raise that price anymore. So $99. So we want to, anybody that's interested, this should be no excuse, right? You can come. And then additionally, we added a $25 ticket, but that's for like locals. So we're asking that people don't take advantage of that. That's really just, for people that are local to Mexico, or we'll say, South Central America that somehow made their way to the conference. But it shouldn't be people that kind of like flew in that are, we ask that you buy the regular ticket because, we don't want to go broke here throwing the conference. We are getting sponsored from some of the people that will have tables and stuff, but still, we're trying to make the conference as affordable as possible. But we ask that, people don't take advantage. So the local price is for anybody that, can't afford it otherwise. Super cheap, $25. That we might test you at the door. We might ask you to sing the Mexican national anthem or something to see if you're actually truly local. But yeah, help get the word out on that. So if anybody's a Spanish, of Spanish Latin American descent, you have
anyone that knows
down
Spanish,
there, get the word out on this. If you have friends in Mexico City, locals that are in those communities, I think last show we were talking to a guy from Decred who's going to be helping us out with getting the word out to the local Mexican crypto communities. But also, if there's anybody else out there, please reach out or just do it on your own. You can go on the website, copy the folder, copy the flyer poster, and go ahead and share it on your own. And I
think that's really it.
I mean, obviously, we're adding speakers every day. We're adding section. We're going to add a section to the website showing the workshops. So as of now, there's going to be a Monero 101 workshop, which is really going to be for these noobs, these locals that we're trying to get. We're going to have Spanish speakers helping us out, volunteering, so they can talk to the locals and they'll teach them about Monero. Very basic, just like when we go to conferences, get them to download a wallet, and we'll send them a few dollars worth of Monero, so they have their first transaction, and just teach them best practices, writing down their private key, etc. Then we're going to have kind of like a more advanced Monero workshop where people can learn how to run a full node, support the Monero network, or mine with P2 pool, things like that. So supporting the Monero network. Then we're going to have a privacy best practices workshop. We have somebody that's going to be doing, what's the guy's name that's doing that?
Which one?
The privacy workshop.
Um,
got him on board.
I forget. Hold on.
Whoever you are, we had a great convo the other day. Sorry, guys. We talked to a lot of people.
Yeah, bear with us. If you do reach out, we're gonna get back to you. It's just a lot.
It's endless work, guys. Trying to communicate
every second.
But they're going to be running the best privacy business. It's not Seth for privacy, but it's going to kind of be like a Seth for privacy type style workshop. Because Seth is going to be down there, but he'll be doing other things. He's going to give a talk. I'm sure he'll be helping out with the workshops. What's that?
Was it Nate?
Yeah, I think it was.
Spoke to earlier this week.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I do remember.
So he's going to be running that, and then we also have another workshop that's going to be run by NIM, because NIM's going to be down there. They're going to have a table, so they want to do a workshop teaching people how to use NIM. NIM is kind of like a new twist on Tor, decentralized version that's self-propelling, so to speak. So won't go into the NIM project now. We've had some of the people that work on it before on the show. Maybe we'll have them on soon as kind of to ramp up to Monerotopia, but they'll be down there. Super cool people, definitely cypherpunks, and they'll be doing a workshop. And that concludes
your rant,
the hour-long rant on Monerotopia updates. As always, guys, we ask that if you're going to go, please just pull the trigger as soon as possible, just so we know how many people expect. Please just get the word out on it. I just don't want it to be like that people that are into Monero don't even know it's happening.
Yeah.
If they know it's happening and they don't want to go, sure, that's fine. But worse would be like they just never came across it. And I think Monero is such a off the radar community that you'd be surprised. A lot of people end up not coming across these things. They don't really go on social media much. They're not out there. They're not watching the Monero Talk, Monerotopia YouTube videos, right? They're like, head down, working on their whatever cypherpunk stuff, whatever they're doing. They're off the radar. So we ask that the community itself kind of spreads the word. We want everybody to know about it. And then, as always, reach out to us.
Reach out to us if you want to volunteer. We need volunteers, please. And obviously, if you want to be a part of the conference itself, but email us at monerotopia@protonmail.com.
Monerotopia@protonmail.com for any reason.
For any reason, even just to say hi.
Well,
we love the emails.
Don't do that. We get enough emails.
I appreciate them, although it's a lot. But someone's asking where you got your shirt. I got it for you for Christmas, but it was actually on Amazon. It's actually a pretty good shirt.
Oh, you went to Amazon.
I know Amazon. Sorry, guys. I admitted it.
To buy an Amazon.
There you go.
At least first, please.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, because let me add that to the list of random things. Anyways, let's move on to the price report. The Monerotopia price report segment is sponsored by Local Monero. Avoid using KYC exchanges. Buy and sell Monero directly for fiat, peer-to-peer. Hello, Bawdy.
Bawdy, what's going on?
I think you're muted. Bawdy.
I love we had people chiming in from the comments. Nate is the one doing
Yes,
the
I know.
Okay, I should be unmuted.
Oh, yeah, there you go. We can hear you.
How's my voice? This is a new microphone. Hopefully I'm not echoed or anything.
Wonderful.
Yeah, sounds good.
Sounds wonderful. Sounds
cool.
Good. How are you? Happy Saturday.
I'm good. Happy Saturday morning.
Happy Saturday morning. Okay, take it away, my friend.
Okay. So we got XMR USD. We're looking at the weekly time frame. Sorry, I'm getting an echo actually. I'll just have to ignore it.
Oh, that sucks.
Okay, so XMR USD weekly time frame. It's basically a big rising triangle. The hope here is that we break this resistance and then we head towards the top.
Yeah.
Let's go to the shorter time frame so we can see that more clearly. So we're very close. Technically, we've just pumped a tiny bit above the downsloping resistance. And with any luck, this will continue. I am a little bit concerned right now about how much longer this pump can continue. But for now, I've taken some profit on my shitcoins. But Monero, I'm just going to let this thing ride. It's my hodl. I figure I can trade all the other crap, but Monero Monero deserves more than my degenerate trading practices. So here you can see a little bit closer. We've broken 1 day above this. We want to hold a little bit further. I think it's still very possible that we can come back down to this line right here. I think everything really depends on what happens with the rest of cryptocurrency. So we can also take a look at XMR BTC. And even though we've had a lot of complaints from the community about this recent drop, the reality is that we're sitting at 0.08. So that's really a great place compared to where we were for the past couple years. And it's possible, again, like we talked about last week, it's possible we might need to come back down to this area. If we do, that's would probably happen because the rest of cryptocurrency pumped significantly. So it's kind of a good problem to have, unless you only have Monero, which I guess some people only have Monero, and that's fine. In terms of making mad gains, I think it's a good idea to participate in some of the other craziness, but that's a personal decision. So let's go a little bit closer time frame. So this is looking a little bit to me like it's out of exhaustion, right? This big move that's happened here, we're already pumping back to the upside. It looks to me like Monero should have a little bit of a rebound here. At the same time, by saying that, it's very possible that we'll be seeing not the end of, but a pullback in the broader market. So I guess maybe I went a little bit out of order because I keep talking about the macro because that is influencing things right now. But that's fine. I love Monero, so we can just start here. XMR versus ETH. You notice I kind of had to redraw these lines a little bit, but we're still sitting in a very clear pattern, this rising wedge pattern right here. So looks like we're going to stay here for a little bit, maybe keep doing this. At some point, it's going to break one way or the other. It's such a long time frame. If you'll notice that this area right here is May. So perhaps we get a nice big run in stocks and crypto. Monero just kind of holds this inside rising wedge. And then perhaps whenever this run is done, maybe it's in May, maybe it's over here in June, I think that would be a good opportunity for Monero to continue its bull run versus Bitcoin and versus Ethereum. So we can go ahead and look at the divergences. One thing I've done here is that I've changed the look back. So this is 2,880 time frame periods, and we're on the 5-minute candles. So I believe this is the 10-day. If you do the math on this, I believe we're looking back the average of every 5 minutes for the past 10 days. Or sorry, not the average, but the closing differential in Kraken price versus these other exchanges for every 5-minute increment. And so if you multiply that out, this should be 10 days, I think. Don't quote me on that because I probably have that wrong or something. Anyways, the point of this is that you can see that exchanges, including Binance and Red, since about the New Year's, like right around January 4th, it looks like, they went into positive divergences and they've basically just stayed here overall. Now, one thing that this chart that I've showed you before usually had something like 24 or 48, which would be the 2 and 4 hours. And if we go to that, you can see that it oscillates much more around the 0 point. So you have to kind of expand the look back in the time frame. You have to average everything out to really get the broader picture of what's happening. But overall, we continue to see positive price divergences. Now, this actually has me concerned just a little bit because are they accumulating Monero and do they intend to hold on to that? Are the exchanges going to use this at some point to try and sell it back down? How much can they do that? I'm not quite sure. But that is something that's a phenomenon that we saw. Now, unfortunately, I can't take a look at this exact chart on the 5-minute time frames all the way back to 2020. TradingView just doesn't provide the data back that far. But it is a bit of a concern. I do wonder how much Monero they might be acquiring with the intention of later suppressing the price while they're pumping other things. We'll just have to wait and see on that. For now, our price looks good. Even though we've had a pullback in the XMR BTC ratio, things are still looking great there. So really can't complain about that. We're sitting here with, on Bitfinex, more longs than we have shorts. And that changed again right at the new year. And so that's looking nice. Overall, the XMR dominance across the whole space, we broke through this very, very long descending resistance. It looks like we might be turning that into support right here. we would want to see price get above the kind of this area right here that we were just at. We'll see if that plays out or not. The other big place to see on this chart is what we thought was the bottom of the XMR dominance chart. So that's the dotted line. We definitely would like to see us come up here. I think it's going to be difficult to get past this area. I'm not saying that we don't, but it will probably pose significant resistance, especially since we're seeing the rest of cryptocurrency making big moves. So the thing that should be on people's mind is how much longer can these moves continue? So with that, let's go ahead and expand to the macro, and then we'll at the end talk about crypto, and we'll try and figure out what might be some good plays there. Let's start with Dixie, the dollar index. So we're on the weekly time frame. I wanted to zoom out a little bit today so that we could get a better picture of how this thing looks. You can see we're kind of in this big rising wedge pattern. This was the cryptocurrency and stocks bull market. We broke down from that just a little bit, but then it came right back. So it looks a little bit like that could be, that was probably some kind of manipulation by insiders, or who knows, maybe not. Currency markets are huge, so it's a lot harder to manipulate those than, say, cryptocurrency markets. So overall, we're sitting at this resistance right here. And that would kind of give us the indication that the dollar might be ready to start going up a little bit. It might bounce off of this resistance line here. You would think, well, why wouldn't we just drop down like we did last time? And the answer is because we're not in a 2020 situation where they're massively expanding the M2 and printing money, and we don't have the whole hype cycle going into a massive bull market. This would be a very natural place for the dollar index to find some support and then maybe take a rebound. If you remember, I was saying for quite a while that I was expecting the dollar to eventually bounce back to the upside. And it was a few weeks ago when we saw this peak that just got rejected. And we said, okay, this probably means the dollar index is going down further. And that's the reason why I personally didn't take any profit after having got back into the market for the past few weeks. At this moment, I actually have taken a little bit of profit. It just seems too responsible. I know that cryptocurrency can sometimes just do 2x, 5x, whatever. But we've had such a nice run that, again, it just looks like it was time to at least lock in some of those profits, especially with the potential that we could be sitting at support on the dollar index, and maybe we have another rebound here. There's a couple other confluence things happening at that area. So let's unlock some of these shorter time frames. Turn off the big macro stuff, and then we'll look at the shorter time frames. All right, so we're on the 4-hour chart now, and dollar has basically been in this channel, and it's actually been on the downside of this channel. And so it does look like it's kind of rolling under. It does look like it's starting to find support. Breaking, like one of the first things you would expect to see is to break on the upside of this sort of the splitter of this channel right here. It's not exactly a splitter, right? Because it's not straight down the middle, but it is kind of like your interim resistance line. So breaking above that is really, if you're trading, that's a sign that you would want to think about taking profit, getting out of the market. You've had such nice gains if you got in at the times I was recommending, end of December. Some people were even buying all through December. So, you know, it's never, they say it's never wrong to take profit. All right. Now, even though the dollar index is showing us the potential for a turnaround temporarily, the overnight repurchase agreements at the Federal Reserve have basically continued to do what we expected. Again, that was an exhaustion wick. That was sort of a fake out against the momentum which had already rolled over on the standard deviation bands. And you can see we kind of stayed here at the 1 standard deviation, and then we are now below that. So essentially, these are trending down, right? Overnight repurchase agreements are trending down. So that money has to go somewhere. Now, I guess institutions could just hold it and change it into bonds or something. And probably a lot of them have done that. But a lot of them also redeploy this cash into the stock market and to risk assets. They drop it into leverage. And again, this is anti-correlated with positive movement in stocks and crypto. Now, you can also see that we are getting close to the bottom side of this broadening megaphone pattern. So it's possible that we could find some support down there, and maybe this makes a temporary correction. Again, the way that everything is unfolding, any kind of bounce here would probably be temporary, and then we would see stocks and crypto continue to move to the upside. Now, what might drive this in a fundamental sense? We have the Federal Reserve meeting next week on Tuesday and Wednesday, and I think the consensus is either 25 basis points or 50 basis points. So we'll talk about this a bit more, but it does look like there's potential for some fear going into that meeting. And we can see it in some of the charts, the way they're unfolding. So we'll just have to keep an eye on it. Again, it's another reason why I thought it was a good idea to take some profit. But overall, things still look pretty good. Like everything's setting up just fine for us to continue making a nice run. We probably just need a healthy pullback right here. We're looking at oil. If you remember, we talked about we want to stay in this channel right here. And so far, that's holding just nicely. We really don't want to break to the upside of this. So that's looking nice. Nothing exciting there, but that's exactly how we want. All right, let's take a look at gold. This is the monthly time frame. So you can see that we've got basically a large rising triangle here. We bounced off the support. The gold chart is a really good example of two things as regards pleb lines. So you'll notice that we have two lines here and that I drew them in different places because it's hard to say exactly which one is the quote unquote right one to draw. You can also see that they sort of meet up, they connect down at this point right here. And then finally, this bottom line was useful for having some kind of predictive power or some kind of understanding over what was happening as gold broke down from really what would probably seem like the more natural line. Normally, you might look at this chart and you might think, okay, I'll connect the ultimate low right here, and then we'll connect it to this point, and then you break down from that, and you might say, oh no, gold is broken down. The chart's about to really just take a dump, and I better get out of gold. This is a very common thing that I see. You really want to find other peaks that happen just before the most recent like absolute low, or it could even be possible that this spot right there, maybe that could have actually bottomed down here, and then you would still just connect the other line here to that point. So again, it's just pleb lines. They can be difficult to know for sure which is the right one to draw. So try and draw a bunch of them. Think about it, erase them, draw them again, have a coffee, come back to it. Let's go to the shorter time frame though. So again, we're pushing up towards this area right here, and the momentum is slowed down. I'm not entirely sure that we are going to make it all the way to the top, but it's probably one of these things where we just need to see a little bit of a cool off period, and then maybe sometime after the Fed meeting next week, perhaps 10 days, right? Not next week, but the week after, perhaps we'll find some support, and then gold will make it towards the top of this range. And again, this is probably profit-taking territory. So overall, again, gold is kind of giving us a congruent picture with everything else that we're looking at a short-term reversal of the overall trend that's been happening in January. We can go to stocks. We'll save stocks for last, actually. Let's go to crypto. Go to total specifically. Okay. Yeah, so this is the weekly time frame on total, very big picture view. You can see that, again, we talked about how we broke down from that, the very long rising support. And now we're kind of in this zone. And I'm not really sure where things go from here. Like I said, it wouldn't be wrong to take profit. I am still letting some of my trading stack ride here because there's the potential for things to go all the way to the top of this range here. And if it does, there's a good chance I'll take some profit there. That would probably happen sometime in the next few days. By the time Monday comes around, where we could really be looking at further pullback in stocks. So there's really nothing too exciting about this chart. Yeah, okay, so you can also draw kind of like this ultimate final resistance right here, which would sort of be this line. That should act as some kind of resistance, especially if we get there anytime soon. But we'll just have to see. Bitcoin. Yeah, we kind of did the same thing with Bitcoin over here, where you can draw kind of this most shallow line by using not the blow off top, but the spot right before there, and then right here. So again, that just gives you an area to be conscious of when you start approaching that. Maybe we take another pump here. That again would probably be a good spot for a pullback. We will have to see. So, but I can't give you any like really confident predictions about where the market is going right now. It seemed like a very solid play to be getting into the market for the past few weeks. It's gone so far. It's really difficult to say that anyone should be buying right here, to be honest.
All right.
Last thing we'll take a look at is stocks, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
So we actually finally broke this spot right here. That was really important. We kept talking about how we need to break this resistance. We finally got through that. And the question is, are we going to keep on going? Now, I've seen a lot of people comparing to the 2001 and 2008 bear market. So that's what the blue and the yellow lines are here. Let's actually look at one of them. Look at 2001. We're really not looking at a 2008 type event right now. So the blue line is 2001. That's what the bear market was doing in 2001. And there is a striking amount of similarity in the way that things have unfolded. I still don't see necessarily that we have to have this major dump right here. But just so that people can see and be aware, things do have some kind of similarity in how the price action is unfolded. The thing that I would say is different is that the 2001 market was kind of in denial for a long time. We actually didn't go down that far. So for example, this was just a 20% drawdown, which is technically not even a bear market when you talk about traditional assets. Whereas on the other hand, we had already, like where people thought that stocks were probably about to go to a new all-time high back in 2001, recently we were already down 25%. So it seems like we kind of got a lot of the dump time out of the way. And then you can also see, let me hide this. You could almost call this pattern right here an inverse head and shoulders. It's not quite, you still have this area right here that's not entirely congruent, but it does look a little bit like an inverse head and shoulders. So I'm not too convinced that we're going to have another 2001 event where price just crashes down another 25% from the lows. But we'll really have to wait and see how the economy unfolds, how inflation unfolds, and how far the Fed raises rates, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I guess that's about all I have for you guys today. Oh, there was one more little thing that was important. Let's go to the hourly time frame. So a phenomenon that I think was happening on Friday yesterday. So everything was positive. I was personally waiting for another big Friday pump yesterday. And it looks like people didn't want to take profit until the very last second. So what happened was we were just up and up and up for the entire day. And then at the last second, people took profit. It's like if we go to the 15-minute. Yeah, so it's like people were excited. They wanted to wait. They wanted to get as much of the profit as they could, but they were kind of worried about something. And I think it was probably the Fed meeting next week. They didn't want to hold their positions over the weekend. And so they were trying to get every bit of that profit that they could, basically communicating an overall bullish mentality, but that they wanted to limit some of their risk and take some of that profit at the last thing they did on Friday before close. So overall, that's a very nice bullish mentality. So again, summary, I think the picture is painting that we should have some kind of small pullback right here. This would be healthy. This should continue into the Fed meeting. And then hopefully if we get any kind of good news from the Fed meeting, they're not too hawkish. They're not trying to talk the markets down again. That would be a good opportunity to get back into the markets if you had taken some profit, and then just see where things go from there.
Awesome, man. And you said you thought, at what point do you think Monero would be able to climb again against Bitcoin? Obviously, we're seeing it right now, but I think you had mentioned earlier that we might start to see Monero climb again against Bitcoin.
So for the time that we have a broader bull market or like a miniature bull market, I think that Monero is going to have the tendency to chop sideways. Right. This was a really nice move, right? And it was very sustained. It lasted for an entire year. So we probably need a little bit of consolidation right here, just from a charting perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So really the answer to that question is, how far do we think this miniature bull market in stocks and crypto is going to go? For as long as that's happening, for as long as they're increasing the leverage of the crypto system, we're likely going to chop sideways. And then as soon as that starts going to the downside again, that's where Monero, the ratio, should start to shine again. I don't have any like solid hard timeframes to say, exactly where I think this will end up. I think it's probably a good guess that going into March and April, we should generally have positive momentum, and then we'll reassess as we get closer.
Cinco de Mayo, right on time, right on time. All right, man. Thank you as always. I love these. I know anybody that's like somewhat into price has got to be loving these, because you do an amazing job, man. They talk about the market as a whole. You're fantastic.
Thanks, brother.
All right.
All righty. Let's move on to let's keep it moving.
Thank you so much. Maybe we'll see you in the spaces later.
Yep.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Ciao. All righty. Let's move on to the weekly news segment. And now for our weekly news segment. So people can see your face, because our camera is pretty lagged. So let people see you. I will be adding Tony right now.
Going off of, okay.
Hey guys.
So you have someone to talk to.
That's a good idea,
you won't see me, but
Tony, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, I'm good, guys. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Hanging in there. Slowly recovering from the ankle surgery.
Yeah. He's a trooper.
Oh, yeah.
He's a trooper. He's hopping around.
Yeah, I know. How was it? It was like a 1-day surgery, and
yeah, it was like the surgery itself was like, an hour and a half, 2 hours or whatever. I mean, they put me out, but it's the recovering that's the real.
I know.
Yeah.
So
I still have the dressing from the surgery, so I have to go in a couple of days, and they'll take that off, and then they'll put on a boot and crutches, and I can't work from home.
Yeah.
Even though the whole world worked from home for 2 years during COVID. It's like
you can do it now for like 1 week until you recover.
I work for local government, for municipal government, and as everybody knows, governments are backwards. So if it was the private sector, it wouldn't be everybody in the private. It wouldn't be thinking twice. Like, yeah, sure. Why are we going to ask you to come into work when you can use the internet?
Yeah, of course.
But yeah,
but regardless, you still have one leg. You're kicking ass with the other leg. You can't with the other one. So
he's doing well. He's hopping around everywhere.
Yes.
It's been fun.
Take it away, man. What do we got? A lot of news this week.
Share the screen, my friend.
Okay, perfect. I'm seeing in the chat, Foxcoit, Self-Padre Tony, Anon is on Twitter. Hey, everybody. It's good to see you. Let's get into the news. The first thing that I want to talk is Ethereum's self-address proposal by Vitalik Buterin. We talked about it last week, and we looked over the blog. But I just want to quickly mention this article from CoinDesk. Essentially, Vitalik wants to implement self-addresses to Ethereum. He wants to make NFTs. He wants to add privacy to NFTs, to Ethereum name services, domain names. But I'm just curious, in the beginning when he developed Ethereum, did he not think about privacy and he thought about it only now, or was it a technical difficulty to implement privacy and he was only being able to implement it now? That's what I'm thinking, because these are very smart people, and how can you only think about privacy now when it's such an important thing? And Tony Varstatter, an Ethereum researcher who also reviewed Buterin's blog post, said that self-addresses have great potential to be used in every transaction in which the interaction between two parties should not be revealed to the public. And he talked about buying coffee at supermarkets and people not spying on what you bought, essentially.
So never would have thought of that. That's a good idea, Ethereum guys. I love that they don't even mention Monero. Maybe just mention Monero. Be like, which Monero has been, implemented self-addresses, whatever, 7 years ago and has been using.
But again, was it a technical difficulty that they didn't implement privacy in the beginning, or did they just not think about privacy at all? Which is concerning, because you should think, if you're
Yeah, I
building,
think it was more so the technical difficulty at the time, right? They were making different design decisions. They definitely were not focused on privacy. I think they were well aware of the fact that it lacked it, and this idea that they would add it later, which we talk about all the time, maybe isn't the best strategy if you want your protocol to be private by on the protocol level.
Yes. But so we'll see. Maybe they're going to implement it. We'll see if it's going to have a backdoor, what's going to happen with their implementation and how they're going to do it. But one thing that you can do is you can use Monero. You can go on Cake Wallet and you can buy like Gobi_boy all your groceries for the month with Monero. And guys, I'm going to show for the people watching on Twitter, I'm going on my Monero wallet app. I'm just going to show for the new people how the gift card payment system looks like. I'm not sure if you can see, well, just slightly, but there's a bunch of gift cards, and you can pay at Adidas, you can pay at Chipotle, you can pay at a lot of places using CakePay. You just get the gift card and you're ready to go, which is amazing. So you can basically live off Monero. You have absolutely no excuses. And it used to be only in the US, and now it's in Europe too. So that's awesome to hear, and people are using it, like this person on like hardcore. Like it's no joke to use it for all your.
Want to show it again, because I was playing around with the.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
I was just trying to figure out the setting there, but now you're on the spotlight. Okay.
Let's see. Yep. Okay. There we go.
There you go.
I'm watching on my secondary screen.
There you go.
Can you see it? Yep. Okay. So there's a lot of them, like a lot of guys. Adidas. You can buy clothes. You can buy food. You can buy a lot of things using CakePay. Pizza, Subway, Domino's, like whatever you want.
Yeah, no, all you need is an email address.
Just that
to sign up. You don't need to give any KYC AML, so you could effectively buy these gift cards anonymously and on the spot at purchase. And then you could also go on the website as well, and there you can buy, not through the app yet. I'm sure they're working on adding it, but there's additional, I believe, offerings if you do it through the web app as opposed to through the app. So there's even more offerings there, including buying prepaid cards.
Yes, prepaid cards. Yep, and you can even buy it for odd amounts. You can do it for 42.59, or you can do it for whatever amount you want.
Right. Great. But like a prepaid Visa, I mean, that gets you, gets you pretty
anything.
Far. Yeah,
anything. Like you can live off Monero with CakePay. It's crazy. It's
awesome. Yeah, someone's asking, how can we add more stores to CakePay? You can just email them. I'm sure they have a lot.
Well, no, they use an integrated service. So CakePay is, I forget the company that they're teamed up with. So it's that company that would have to add these other stores.
Yeah, they talked about it.
There you go.
What's the name of the? I don't know.
I forgot, but I know that they're using some company and they're helping them. I forgot the name of it. But yeah, if you just talk to them,
that does it. But yeah, if you have any ideas for I guess reach out to that company.
Send an email and
yeah.
Okay, so let's get to the next thing, and we actually have a non-shop app on Twitter. It's good to see you, my friend. This is really amazing. You can essentially purchase anything anywhere in the world using Monero through this company, and you can even buy camera lenses, like whatever you want, online services, like subscriptions to online services like Netflix and whatever you want, 8K beamers, importing products, cars, like literally anything you want through this company. And I think you mentioned, Doug, that we might have him as a guest next week.
Well, no, wait. Which one is this? Scroll up. Which service is this?
The one with Anon.
Oh, the Anon shop.
Yeah.
We're talking to him right now. I think.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right now, as we speak.
Yeah,
we'll have them.
It's big.
They'll be our special guest next week. Very cool. Yeah, they've been around. It looks like for just a couple of weeks, and they're already kind of iterating. So it's very cool. It seems like they're very active, and they're trying to find product market fit and find something that works. Exactly. I think the idea in theory is great, right? And it started off, I think the first service they were offering was that they would basically anonymously ship you things to your Amazon, right?
I think so.
Shipping box or whatever they call them. Like, so
Yes. Yep. Yep.
just have to give your zip code,
Yeah.
and they would ship there. But now they've added this concierge service, so very, very cool to see.
Yep, and I like the way that they framed it, that you have obtained your XMR securely, KYC free, and now you want to spend
this
it
is a
without-
different one. This is a different one, Tony.
Is there a different one? I think.
No. This isn't Anon Shop. This is the shop. Wait.
Oh, Shop in Bit. Yeah. Oh, wait.
Yeah. So if you click on
Oh,
that.
sorry.
So yeah, they're located in Poland. So I think they're only offering in Poland, but basically what they allow you to do is they have a shop where you can purchase things with Monero. Well, now you move to Anon Shop, but
yeah, okay, this is Anon Shop. Yep, sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. But that other service seems pretty interesting too.
Yeah.
They added a concierge service, but I think it's only for Poland. But in reading it, it's not like completely anonymous. Like obviously they know who you are. I think. Well, it's like they do the ordering for you, but if you read it, it's just like you're trusting them. So you're ordering through them. They know who you are. Then they go buy it, and then you're just trusting that they won't reveal who you are, and they say their info every 30 days or whatever, which cool tech. They've been around for a long time, so very exciting to see, because I think they're originally just Bitcoin based. Now they've added Monero, but yeah, Anon Shop, different concept, just Monero based. They're the ones that started with this offering of just anonymously shipping to your Amazon box. Those things are like located in like Whole Foods and stuff, so you would just give your zip code and it ships there. They don't know who you are other than the zip code you're asking to ship to, and then you go pick it up. But now they added this concierge service, which is pretty cool. I don't know if anybody's tried it out yet, but I love the concept. These are certainly things I've thought of. But yeah, I think a lot of people have ideas in the space, and this is just a perfect example of just run with it. Put up a minimal viable product, get it going, see if you can make it work.
Yep, absolutely. And actually, someone purchased a Google Pixel 6 on the website on Anon Shop, PlayStation 5, an SSD. So I'm happy that people are using it, and it's a beautiful website as well. And it's exciting. I'm excited to them hopping on the show next time.
Yeah, kudos to them. Good luck.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. So let's talk about more bomb news.
What?
Yeah.
So someone tried to get an end miner. For the people on Twitter, I'm showing an image of an S9. That's an ASIC for Bitcoin, and someone tried to get it through airport security and fly with it, and it's kind of dusty and has some dirt. So I assume it looks like a bomb that was pulled from the ground and has a fan on it, and they're trying to run away with it. The person that actually was able to fly with it. But then we have Jan Niculescu that tweeted that he just came back from Romania and he managed to smuggle 2 Monero miners, which is a CPU. The CPU, nobody's going to ask anything because it doesn't look like
his phone, his smartphone, and his CPU. I mean, it's just so funny, right? Like, just shows you another way in which Monero is obfuscated, right? So even the equipment that's used to mine it, there's no way of determining whether or not you have it, right? It's like, that's just my computer.
Yeah, you can just say it's for gaming.
Which sounds absurd, but it's just an added layer of security. Anybody anywhere with the CPU can opt in without permission to start mining Monero and travel with their mining equipment, and they wouldn't be noticed as a miner.
Exactly. And if they let this guy travel with the S9, I think they should let me travel with the Mural. So
let's not get into
The
that.
Mural.
We're not going to get into that. That's just
Yeah,
we're not going to get into that. But I'm going to play the first minute of for the people on.
Wait, hold on. I'll put it out there right now. Unless somebody wants to drive that Mural up to our house in New York from Miami. I think we were getting replies for $1,000. So you'd have to be able to beat that price of $1,000 will pay you in Monero. You have to go rent the truck. Maybe you have one. You fit in a van. A van.
A van.
And then you have to drive it up from Miami to New York. Hey, it could be a way to. I don't know how much profit you make after gas and all that stuff, but it could be a fun adventure.
Stirring it out there.
And then we'll have you on the show as you arrive. You'll be our special guest on Monerotopia.
All sweaty, tired.
All right.
Too funny.
That's fine.
All right. So you want to
Yep.
play the video?
This is
Oh
just
yes, but it's not. Is it showing? Yes, yes, it is showing now.
Yeah, we hope.
I'm gonna show the first minute. So this is
Oh.
Jordan Walker, I think his name is, Pfizer director, and he talks about mutating COVID-19 virus for new vaccines, essentially. So let's watch the first 30 seconds to 1 minute of that.
Pfizer ultimately is thinking about mutating COVID?
Well, that's not what we say to the public. No, don't tell anyone this. You gotta publish, don't tell you. You gotta publish, don't tell anyone. We're exploring, like, no, you know how the virus keeps mutating?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things we're exploring is, like, why don't we just mutate it ourselves so we can create undeveloped develop new vaccines, right? So we have to do that. If we're gonna do that, though, there's a risk of, like, as you could imagine, no one wants to be having a pharma company mutating viruses. It'd be, like, very controlled to make sure that this virus that you mutate doesn't create something like, cells everywhere.
Something crazy.
It's the way that the virus started moving. To be honest, like it makes no sense that this virus popped out of nowhere. Like,
Yeah, I know. Meet Jordan Tristan Walker.
Yep. So this was the video. It's insane. I'm not even sure how it was filmed. They maybe must have had like a pen with the guy must have had a pen with a camera, and he had it in his shirt pocket.
Yeah, I would be curious. Like, how did
Yeah.
he gain his trust and everything? Is he like?
How was this
He was
released?
talking like he was talking to a kind
Like
of
a
a
friend,
friend.
yeah.
He was just
Friend,
like,
yeah.
we're both drunk. Just tell me what you do in your business.
I'm not sure, but I guess, I don't know. But this is insane. That the fact that he said that he wants to, they would mutate COVID-19 virus for new vaccines.
What's insane is you still have idiots out there, sheep, that are gonna, watch this, and still kind of be in disbelief and think that there was no wrong that happened. The pharmaceutical companies are on our side. The state's looking out for our best interest, and that's the scary part, right? Is that even with this evidence, like right in our face, you're still gonna have those that are gonna ignore this and be like, no, they were looking out for our best interests, which is just wild. I mean, it's all of our worst conspiracy theories are coming true, right? It's before our eyes. It's insane.
And the way he's just saying it so casually, like it's nothing. Oh yeah, we're gonna mutate it and whatever. I'm like new vaccines. And he's laughing about it. So
he's basically saying how they're doing gain of function research, saying look, this is probably what happened, how COVID got out in the first place in Wuhan, and actually we're doing the same thing over here. I hope it doesn't happen again. And, it's just showing that there really is no moral compass, and why should there be? I mean, this is how it works. This is, you have this large mega company with infinite power, infinite money, that has its tentacles into the government, the regulatory bodies that are supposed to regulate them. There's complete regulatory capture there, and all the regulations and rules that they're creating are just going to be benefiting these companies and perpetuating things forward, which is actually analogous. We had this week, we did a show on what is it called, the Bitcoin fog. So it was pretty interesting. So Bitcoin fog is a mixer from like 2013, centralized, and they recently accused this guy Roman of being the one who runs it. Whether or not he was or not, I mean, we had his attorneys on, and they're pretty steadfast in saying that he's innocent and that they were basically incorrectly, using chain analysis to accuse him of this crime when there really wasn't any hard evidence that connected him. And where the story really gets interesting is that it could be the first time that chain analytics is on trial for the first time, as to what precedent gets set there in terms of what can be used in a court of law to prove somebody is or isn't part of a crime via cryptocurrency using chain analytics. And they just Tor is the name of the attorney. He's just kind of gotten on this rabbit hole and is realizing how corrupt the chain analytics industry is, and how analogous to this, they're basically tied into the regulators. Arctic Mine kind of talks about this a little bit. So, it's the way the ecosystem works is the chain analytics companies have an incentive to influence the regulators, right? And then the regulators are incentivized to listen to what the chain analytics companies want them to do, because a lot of these guys that work in regulation then end up going and getting jobs for these companies on the outside. So you see that with the pharmaceutical companies, right? But now you're seeing that with things like chain analytics. So these same guys that are the insiders, that are public servants, that are the regulators, that are making the rules, determining what regulations, KYC, AML, whatever it is, banking regulations new banking regulations that need to come down with regards to crypto. They're being, these crypto tracing companies that are whispering in their ears, telling them what the regulations should be. And then what ends up happening? They end up going and getting these big cushy jobs with these chain analytics companies, which become multi billion-dollar companies, if not already. I mean, they're on their way. But it's literally the same exact type of system that we're seeing in place that happened with the pharmaceutical companies.
Exactly. And actually, since you mentioned this, I really want to talk about the article that you sent me before. I want to segue it into the article with the crypto AG.
Oh, yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, let's talk about this for a little bit, because this is wild. So what if Bitcoin's roots extend back over 80 years prior to the origins of the US security state? This is the story of Bitcoin, the NSA, and the crypto AG. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to mention a couple things. But the story goes back to 1892 to Boris Caesar Wilhelm Hegelin. And then essentially, if we scroll down, he developed a crypto AG machine, it's kind of like an Enigma machine, which has rotor-based cipher machines to encrypt messages. And the conclusion of the story is that the CIA was paying close attention to this machine, and they wanted to backdoor it. They saw potential in using the machines.
They did. I think there was pretty hard evidence eventually. They bought out, essentially took control of the company in some backdoor way. Eventually, completely took it over. And they, mandated who they could sell these machines to, right?
Yes.
And they even changed the instructions that went along with the machine. Like they recommended that certain things be done for certain countries using the machine, which basically allowed them better access to spying into the messages that are being sent back and forth. And yeah, really where the thread ends up going. So it starts with that long history of showing that, the CIA, the NSA, they've done this before, right? They've taken these, we've seen it. We've seen it with the Snowden leaks, right?
Yes.
There's no question, right? We know that that's what these huge, powerful state governments are in the business of doing. So he goes and he writes a story and he proves that it's been done before, and then kind of weaves it into Bitcoin and crypto, and questioning, at this point it's conspiratorial whether or not it's happened again with something like Bitcoin. Obviously, people have mentioned that, right? These conspiracies with Bitcoin created by the NSA, the CIA. And who knows? But what he's really talking about is the elliptic curve that Bitcoin uses, that it's based on, and they're showing kind of the trail of evidence as to why it may not be so far-fetched to believe that there is potentially a backdoor in the ECC that Bitcoin uses. And he points out who was the creator or partook in creating it, and how that person had created other elliptic curves that were proven to have had a backdoor put into them. And there's no hard evidence that there is one in Bitcoin, but it's just interesting. And I think really what the main point or takeaway is the tweet that I had put out with regards to this, is that for those that are in Bitcoin, that are maxis, to ignore this is ridiculous, right? To ignore Monero in the first place has always been ridiculous. But I think it's just an additional reason to look at Monero and Fluffy Pony had always said this as well, that maybe the best way to look at Monero is a hedge, the ultimate hedge to Bitcoin, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Monero, Bitcoin is capped. Monero has a tail emission. Bitcoin is mined by ASICs. Monero is mined by CPUs. Bitcoin has fixed blocks. Moneros are dynamic. But Bitcoin is fundamentally transparent on the protocol layer. Monero is private, and then even the encryption that they're based on are fundamentally different. And Bitcoin is using this elliptic curve that could potentially have been backdoored, whereas Monero is using one where I'm not wise on all this enough to say, but from what I'm researching is there's a less chance that this would have been a backdoored curve, and so I'm hoping to do a show on that. Actually, if anybody knows somebody good to talk about where we can really get some strong insight into how these basically curves were developed and whether or not we should have more trust in one or the other. But it's just really interesting stuff. And if nothing more, I think it's just additional evidence as to why people should look at Monero as perhaps being the best hedge to Bitcoin for these reasons.
Yes. And you should doubt these technologies because countries invest millions in crypto AGs, and they believe that they were getting trustworthy technology from Switzerland, but they were actually being spied by the CIA for the past 5 decades, and that's 148 countries. And the US was worried about the USSR and other countries spying, but they were the ones spying the whole globe for 5 decades. So,
yeah, I'm pretty certain the guy who wrote this thread, because I did reach out to him, I asked him if he'd come on the show. He said he can't do anything like that right now, but I'm pretty sure he might take the same opinion of Monero itself. I would say, I think in general he thinks all crypto is potentially kind of like backdoored.
Yes,
but I don't know. I don't know if that I don't know if I think there's hope. I think there were really smart crypto guys that on their own in an open source way created things that we can trust. But I'm not intelligent enough to know that. But I would love to find somebody who can speak about that intelligently.
Right. Okay. Now let's talk about Norway CBDC and Saudi central bank's CBDC. Norway has been working on CBDC since 2016, so for a long time, when it was one of the first countries to even work on it. But we are raising privacy questions to their CBDC product because essentially they want to heavily regulate it, KYC it, and the article talks about many fintech companies moving to places like Switzerland or outside because it's just not a viable place for a business. They do have lower energy costs, free education, but the tax burden is so high. And then we have a quote in the article that says the Norwegian central bank CBDC project can also pose a threat to the legal status of private stablecoins in the country. The introduction of a CBDC may prompt increased regulation and oversight in private stablecoins, making it harder for these companies to operate. And then they will force KYC. They essentially don't want you to have privacy. And then we have the last sentence that says that the CBDC of Norway will not only offer less privacy for a single customer, but at the same time, less public transparency with regard to blockchain. So they'll have their CBDC. Nordic countries are heavily investing in cashless solutions, and it's not going to be the one in which you're going to have your own privacy. And, it's going to be transparent to them, and they'll have their own privacy most likely. So Norway is heavily going into it. Saudi central bank is still researching CBDC, although they have had projects in the past, and the project's name is called Project Aber in 2019. And the report said that there was a significant improvement over centralized payment systems in terms of architectural resilience. So they've done tests in the past with CBDCs. They have found positive effects that it would have over the economy. But I guess they're still thinking about deploying one, but ultimately I think that they will, because the whole world is going to
everybody's moving towards it. If you go back to the Norway one for a second, what I thought was kind of funny about is, you have this bank. There was a quote there, and it was one of the banks talking about how today there's 50 billion krona in circulation. I can't remember. And Norges Bank can only account for 40% of its use. This means that 60% of money usage is outside of any control. So they're concerned about that cash. They don't like the idea of cash because you can use it in ways that they can't see. And then the bank, the same bank goes on to say how they're okay with accepting Bitcoin and selling Bitcoin, right, via KYC AML. So showing that the banks they're not concerned about Bitcoin, right?
Yes.
They're concerned about cash because you can't see it. You can't see how people are using it. But that same bank is also not concerned about Bitcoin, obviously, because they offer the sale of Bitcoin. And then they also want to make a CBDC. So it just kind of shows you that banks really aren't concerned about all crypto. They're not concerned about Bitcoin.
Right.
And they don't like the idea of cash. They don't like the idea of true digital cash.
Right.
So
and
then trust that they're going to make a CBDC that has cash features is why there'd be absolutely no reason to trust them, when literally they're saying the reason they want to create a CBDC is because cash can't be tracked and traced.
Exactly.
That would instill privacy.
Exactly.
Trust.
And this article also talks about banks in the past slowly not accepting cash. And I think only a bank in Oslo was accepting cash at some point, and the rest major banks were just rejecting cash. So they definitely want to go cashless. Crazy. And it's crazy. But let's go back into Monero. We finished CBDCs for this week. Let's talk about a FOSS desktop point of sale app. And there's actually two projects that I want to mention within this post. One called Lumo, which is Esperanto for light. I like that the person used Esperanto because Monero is also in Esperanto, and it means money. And Lumo is essentially a self-hosted, semi-transparent and auditable Monero wallet. It's for donations and charity purposes, so that you can the donor is protected, but then
this is very cool. Yeah, basically turns a Monero into Bitcoin for when you need it.
I like a Bitcoin-esque kind of. Yeah.
So maybe we, once it comes a little further along, we could be one of the first users of this with Gratuitous. Could be a good use case.
Yes. Absolutely, yes. And then they also have a project called Caseo. I think Caseo, most probably, if it's in Esperanto. It means cash desk checkout. And it's an open source point of sale app for receiving and tracking Monero sales and payments in person. And here's the website for the people watching on Twitter. You can go to ksejo.com. It's a beautiful, simplistic website. And it's open source.
And it's not ready yet, though, right? Because I know he's been talking about it for a long time.
No.
Right?
Development is still going on. No, it's not ready yet. No. So it's still under development.
We definitely have to have him on at some point. I know he's been talking about this for a while now.
Yeah, for sure.
There's progress being made.
For sure. Yep. And the last thing that I want to mention is someone that I thought was actually hey, Monero-chan, Monero bro, Monerista. And he tweeted Monero. And it really depends on how you read it, because many people thought that this is a Monero person. Monero, it runs the dark web, but I just use it to buy groceries. Or you can say, it runs the dark web, yes, of course, but I just use it to buy groceries, which means that, yes, it does power the dark web. People use it for those nefarious activities, but I use it to buy groceries, so it depends on your use case. But he meant it in the way that it runs the dark web. Criminals are using it, but I'm just using it to buy groceries. Yeah,
right. You can't possibly be using Monero in a illegal way, is what he was suggesting. Which it's just like, look at this guy. Like his account, right? If you zoom in, John W. If you go through his tweets, like he acts all hard and like he's like this super tough, hard, anonymous dude. And then he just says this like this most state bootlicking thing possible, right? Like it. So he's opposed to a crypto that could potentially be used for criminal purposes. Is that essentially what he's saying? Like I don't understand this. I don't understand this person. You know, and he's a big BTC maxi. So like, what does he believe in? It's just that it's Bitcoin is limited, so it's going to go up in value. So he doesn't like this character in Bitcoin land frustrates me to the 10th degree. And like they act like they're these like tough cypherpunk individuals that are like out there like hoping for the revolution or something. And meanwhile, they're not okay with the fact that something like Monero might be used for criminal things, and suggesting, well, it was just built for those purposes, and if it's used for those purposes, that means it's only used for those purposes, which is completely ridiculous. I mean, the first use case of Bitcoin was for dark market purposes. That's when people first got excited about it, because they're like, wow, look, here's something that you weren't able to do before Bitcoin, right? It proved the use case. You couldn't set up a dark market with Visa or Venmo. It would be impossible, or PayPal. And now with this tech, you were able to set that up, and it proved that it did something that these other things couldn't do. And now it's also proven that actually it didn't do that well, right? As people are still getting caught. Like we saw, you know, with the guest we just had with the BTC mixer from 2013, people still getting caught from using that from 2013.
Crazy.
And here this guy is like pointing it out, trying to insult Monero people, and and suggest that this is a flaw of Bitcoin. Which, I mean, of Monero, right? It's ridiculous. I don't know.
But if you do find it funny, you can buy a T-shirt. It's going to be on gratuitous.org. For the people watching on Twitter, Doug made a picture of the Monero logo, and it says it runs the dark web, and underneath the Monero logo, but I just use it to buy groceries. And the name of the person.
I realized you're an artist.
It took me about 2 minutes.
Oh, no, I realized that's why you use Canva. He asked me.
No, I use one of those like T-shirt creator things.
Okay.
Yeah, one uplift. Yeah, but
we should have this as the general admission T-shirts. If you don't have one, you can enter. Like we had the what do we have last year? The circular things, the little
the buttons.
Pins, the buttons. Yeah, we should have this. And if you don't have this T-shirt on, you can't enter the conference.
We could make this
That's
the
Monerotopia
swag, actually.
There you go.
I invited the guy to the conference. I said, ticket on me if you want to come. Thank you for the amazing creative idea for how to market Monero.
Yeah, honestly, but I don't know. You should be open to all technologies, even if you don't agree with some things. But it does, like, one more thing that I'll mention, and that'll be it for this week. If you go on Monero, it doesn't say on the white paper, it was made for dark web. Only use it for dark web. If you want to buy groceries, you can, but you just use it for dark web. It doesn't say that,
Yep.
So
just
awesome.
that's it for this week, guys. The links are in the description. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you, Tony. You're the bomb. Have a good one.
Cheers.
Adios.
You too.
All right.
Bye, guys.
All right. Let's bring on our guest. They've been waiting patiently.
Oh,
The Monerotopia guest segment is sponsored by Cake Wallet. Store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero and Bitcoin safely on iOS and Android too. Cake Wallet is open source, and you always control your own keys. Oh, whoops.
What
Hold
happened?
on a second. No. Hi, Ashley. Hello.
just muted.
I think you're muted. Yep.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you for
Thank
patiently
you
waiting.
for patiently waiting.
I was dying. He said it runs the dark web, and I just use it one time. That is hilarious. I missed that tweet.
BTC maxis have completely lost it.
Oh, that is funny. I need that shirt, man. I really do.
There you go.
We'll get it up. We'll get it up.
No, we know it's popular.
I was glad I was muted. I was dying. I'm so sorry. I can't compose myself. That's funny.
You're fine. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So Ashley, who are you? We don't even know. Go ahead and give a quick.
What is it? Are you like asking me like what I do or?
Well, I don't know. What's your story?
Intro.
I guess.
Yeah, we're
An
having you on
intro.
the,
Yeah.
You know, we
So
know,
people
we
know who
you
you
know
are.
you're into privacy. You run the, I guess, the AvoidtheHack website, right?
Yeah, I do. It's just me.
I'm not asking for your
That's
social
why there's so many typos. You want my social? That's fine. Everybody has it now because of Experian, TransUnion, and it's fine, I guess. Me, I don't know. I'm just some young cybersecurity professional that's just into privacy. That's
awesome.
Really it. I kind of started.
How'd you get passionate about
it? By accident. I'm actually pretty new to the actual cybersecurity like professional space. I was always into tech. Okay, I guess I'll just start at the beginning. I was always into tech. Like I'm a big gamer. And I've always like been into computers, not necessarily hacking, but like gaming. And then once everything, like when social media started to come out, I was kind of like, okay, this rubs me the wrong way, because I was always told, hey, like you don't share personal info on the net. So I was really late coming to social media. I'm still a millennial, though I'm not like super, I don't want to say old, I don't want to offend anybody. So I was really late coming to social media just because I'm a very private person. It causes a lot of issues with my family, right? Because they're like, oh, you don't tell us things. And I'm like, well, it's not your business. So I've always been that type of person. So it took me a long time to like even come around to the idea of getting on social media, like a name on the internet. And then I got to college and I went through this phase of, oh, everything on the internet's great. So I did too much on the internet. So like I'm still kind of feeling the blowbacks from that. I was never doxxed or anything. But yeah, so then I moved into the workforce. I got caught up in this OSINT outfit and I realized just how much data is out there, because governments buy for data. Everyone wants data. And now that it's just freely available and how easy it is to get, I don't know, it just kind of scared me. So I went from there and I actually started AvoidtheHack right when I officially crossed over into cybersecurity from like my OSINT outfit. And it just kind of grew from there. I kind of started by accident. The name was a joke in the office that I worked in. So yeah, that's me, I guess.
Awesome. And so what are kind of your quick and dirty recommendations for people to maintain privacy on the internet?
So I kind of specialize in like web exploitation. So a lot of like my recommendations come for like browsers and like controlling the device's network connections, which is actually really hard these days, especially when it comes to like IoT devices and smartphones. So my biggest recommendation is to stop using Google Chrome and Microsoft Edge. I hate Chromium, actually. So I try not to recommend Brave, but I know a lot of people need to use Chromium because of the state of browser engines these days. So I'm a diehard Firefox fan. I acknowledge its shortcomings. So I like to recommend LibreWolf for people that don't want to tweak the settings. I also really recommend an ad blocker. If those are like the only two things that I can recommend anybody, that would be it.
Those are like two easy, low-hanging fruit things to
yeah, because LibreWolf, it comes with uBlock Origin installed. So, you download that. It's already tweaked for privacy. And then you block some ads. And then if you want to get crazy, you can set up, you don't have to set up a pie hole, but you can set up like an encrypted DNS resolver or point to it. Actually, there's, I'm losing like my train of thought.
No worries. Someone in the comments is saying about Brave.
Oh, Brave, yeah.
Yeah. So I know I don't want to give people the wrong impression. Like Brave is a decent browser. I've looked into it. Like I've analyzed it. It's a decent browser for what it is. The issue I have with Brave is all the bells and whistles it comes with. It makes a lot of connections, which, to be fair, they just released their I think they released the source code for their proxy service, which is, I don't want to say it's anonymous, but it is privacy respecting. But as opposed to something like LibreWolf that doesn't make all those connections, it doesn't come with all those bells and whistles in a browser. Like I don't like having a browser just make so many background connections, just a red flag for me personally. But I know that there are people out there that just want to download the browser and be able to do everything in the browser. So it's hard for me not to recommend it. But I don't like Chromium as an engine in general. So I'm kind of biased.
Got it. How about so that's browser. What would you say is the next thing people should kind of concentrate on if they're trying to gain privacy in the digital realm?
Blocking ads, actually.
Yes.
I don't know if anybody saw, but FBI actually put out a PIN, their private industry notification, I think it's what that stands for, to like, hey, like you might want to use an ad blocker because there's been this massive phishing campaign across search engine ads. And they're and how like the UI for Google is, or even if you use something like Start Page, because Start Page pulls Google ads if you don't use an ad blocker, so you'll see them. They look like results. I've clicked on a few. I'm like pretty like, hey, I like to think I'm decently well versed. I wouldn't call myself an expert, but I've clicked on a few, and it takes you to like malware domains, like trying to do drive-by downloads. Like posing as false software, but actually like is dropping information stealers like Redline or Vidar. It's easy to get caught up in that. So the easiest way not to get caught up in it is to just block it. Just don't see it.
And then how about like search engine itself? So not just the browser, but which search engine then are you recommending?
Personally, I'm a Mojik stan. If anybody follows me on Twitter, you see me constantly interacting with. They have a great. The guy who runs their Twitter is a great guy. He's hilarious. Yeah, I like Mojik, but I know it lacks search intent for the average person. So I usually just recommend Start Page. I used to recommend DuckDuckGo, but what happened last summer that was like the final straw for me. So like I still recommend it because it's better than going to Bing. But all the stuff that's come out over the last couple of years with them, it's kind of hard to be like, yeah, just use DuckDuckGo. So I usually just recommend Mojik for the adventurous and Start Page if you like need search intent.
Awesome. How about like email, messengers, like Signal type things? Which preferred?
It depends on what you're trying to do, right? So I know, like, my mom is a Signal stan now, but I can't get her onto something like Session, right? I would prefer Session personally because it doesn't require any kind of PII at all, whereas Signal is very private. Their protocols are very respected. But they do require a phone number. Now, the phone number doesn't have to be SIM connected.
That part, the phone number.
Yeah. Oh my god, I hate it.
Yeah.
Like, what is the point? Yeah. I'm like,
fortunately, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be connected to a SIM. So, like, if you try to register, so what I mean by that is if you try to register for something like WhatsApp with a VoIP number, I don't know how they do it. My guess is they have a database, and they will say, hey, it looks like a VoIP number. You can't register. Google does the same thing. If you try to register for a Google account with a VoIP number, I really don't know how they do it. I guess it's very proprietary. The Signal doesn't do that. So if you want to register with a VoIP number, it will still send a confirmation code there. But it's just a fact that it requires one that kind of rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, it's an extra step. It drives me nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, I still recommend it though. Like,
yeah,
for like, I don't want to say the normal people out there, but for like the normal people out there, like in comparison to WhatsApp, it's leaps and bounds greater, and it's no tweaking. That's the thing. Like, you can download Signal, put a number in, and you have good privacy for your messages, like just like that right off the bat.
Yeah.
Same thing with Session though, but I know like Sessions, it's different.
Session's good.
Yeah, I love Session. Yeah. I talk to people on Session all the time.
Kind of new, so it's like it's still.
We're gonna have them at Monerotopia.
Yeah.
We're gonna have Oxys.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, it's not totally finalized.
Yeah, it's not confirmed, but we're in the works to talk. Yeah, I love Session actually.
Yeah, they're gonna have a table. Oxys gonna have a table, and they're the people behind Session, and then hopefully they're gonna give, I think, 2 talks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that should be cool.
Works, yeah.
Oh, that sounds really cool. I know they're also behind LokiNet, which I've been looking into. It's pretty cool. First, like some technical details, it actually hooks into Tor. Let me start here. Tor can only do TCP traffic, right? So it can really only do traffic like in the browser, because it is a browser. Whereas LokiNet hooks into it can do TCP, UDP, and ICMP traffic. So it pretty much all the normal traffic that any given computer can have. So it can actually give you a anonymity. Am I saying that right? It can give you it can give you that across the whole device, whether it's just in a browser. Because it hooks into the DNS resolver, and everything's pretty cool.
Awesome.
But yeah.
And do you recommend VPNs, or do you think they're just kind of maybe just another party that's just grabbing all your information?
I try to look at it like this, right? Your ISP is not your friend. They already, even without knowing, I hope I'm going to answer your question, but I just want to like explain this first. So like, your ISP is not your friend, right? And they're not necessarily configured for any kind of security or really privacy. They know who you are, where you live. You can't like pay in Monero, so they got a payment, like a debit card connected to you. So they actually know a lot about you. And then to route your internet traffic through them too. And in the US,
making it too for them.
It's like in the US, they can actually sell they can actually sell your data to whoever. They're allowed to. I think that came into effect in sometime when something got I don't know the details. I think it's the FCC. Something got repealed, and now they can do that. So they can sell they can collect advertising profiles based off of your browsing data and sell it off. So you're better off using a VPN, but then you don't want to use something like NordVPN. I probably shouldn't name drop like that, but if you're going to use a VPN, you should be really, 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 really. You should look into who the provider is. I usually recommend the big three. Is what I call them: Proton, IVPN, and Molvad. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but IVPN and Molvad, they actually accept Monero. So
yeah, we were sponsored by IVPN for some time. They're good. So yeah, we tend to recommend them, and it's great that they accept Monero.
Yeah, I really like how they go about account creation. It's just you click a button, you get you don't have to register with an email or anything. Now I don't want to slight Proton because I'm a big fan, because I actually use Proton Mail. That's my main mailbox, but I also use Tutanota and Skiff. I really do like Skiff. It's kind of newer on the scene. They launched, I think, their mail service 7 or 8 months ago. But yeah, their white paper is pretty legit. And to be in the US and providing that kind of privacy. Now, I mean, Signal is also US based, but it's a nonprofit. It's pretty cool.
What do you think about the theories of CIA, NSA having backdoors into various technologies. I mean, do you think, even with things like Signal potentially, or today we were talking about Bitcoin, right? That's a crazy conspiracy, but just curious, what are your thoughts?
Man, it's like I can see it. I mean, the CIA got busted in the 70s for spying on private citizens. FBI too, I think in the 80s, and then there's the whole thing with DEA introducing, like, if you ever seen that show where it's like DEA and they introduce like cocaine into Black communities and stuff because they were organizing, and it's just, I can see it. I don't know what else to say. I don't want to be that person that's like, yeah, they're definitely da 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 da, and then you guys are like, well, that crazy girl from AvoidtheHack. No, I don't. It's plausible, right? I mean, it really
that's
is.
The thing about conspiracy, like, you don't want to lose credibility, but at the same time, that's why it's dangerous, because they just throw all conspiracy theories into the same bucket, right? So anybody that has one, it's like there's no way to have a legitimate theory, right? Because you're just called a crazy person, which is very convenient for people that might actually be performing conspiracy, like really carrying them out, right?
It's kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't type thing. But I'll just say it's plausible. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh yeah, like everything is gravy, like, with the government.
Which is why the most important thing, I think, is that these things really truly be open source and vetted by, large communities. So, it's not just agents that are controlling it, but there's, a lot of individuals that are looking at it, and you just trust in large numbers that enough people are looking at it, and then overall it will tend towards not having something like a backdoor if it's vetted enough.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think open source is the future. But to backpedal, like, open source actually is the backbone of our current infrastructure. A lot of people don't know that. So they think, oh, open source is like this new thing. Like, no, like, the internet is technically open source, technically. I'm not very technical, like, kind of. So, like, most proprietary things, like Microsoft, like any like proprietary software has some sort of open source component in it. I challenge somebody to find something that is completely like closed source. They never used any kind of open source at all, even Windows.
Yeah, not possible.
Yeah, it's just, so open source, like, there's like this image, I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's like all the tech companies, and then it's like a little leg, and it's like an open source dev, like it's supporting all of like this infrastructure we've gotten used to over the years.
Audio's connected to my computer.
Actually, any chance we see you down at Monerotopia?
There's a possibility. I'm supposed to be traveling and around that time, but that's very tentative. So yeah, there's a possibility. I've never been to Mexico.
Awesome. We'd love to have you down there. Yeah, we're doing one of the workshop is going to be on like privacy best practices. Do you speak Spanish by any chance?
Like I was pretty good at it when I was in grade school.
Okay,
but,
so
I'm a little rusty.
All right, if you come down there, maybe you can help us out. We'd give you a free ticket if you're willing to do that. That'd be awesome. Just, I mean, most of the conference is going to be in English, but we're trying to get locals to come too. So we want people there that can kind of like help explain some of these concepts.
That's really cool. I wholeheartedly believe that privacy is for everybody.
100%.
Yeah, especially for the vulnerable out there. And however you want to take that, whether you're a minority in any way or you have a dissident opinion from, the norm, like those are the people that need privacy the most.
Right, it protects the minority.
Yeah, it's really I get I get kind of emotional, you know, when people are like, no, privacy is bad. Da-da-da-da. I'm like, no, it's actually human. Like, it's a very human thing to want privacy. It's not, that doesn't have anything to do with being secretive.
No.
What is your kind of your standard response to people who are like, well, you know, I got nothing to hide, so why, you know, and why would I perpetuate some technology that can be used to fund terrorism or drug trafficking? How do you respond to that? What do you tell people?
Loaded question. You just handed me a very like smoking bomb.
Maybe I can use it. I know. I'm curious. Yeah.
I used to say, hey, okay, like, what's the last email you got? What's the last text you got? From who? There's some people that are.
You're breaking up a little. Repeat what you said.
Sorry, I have Comcast internet. Can you hear me?
Yep. No, you're good. Yeah.
Okay. I used to like start peppering them with questions like, okay, like, what's the last email you received? Oh, who's your bank again? You know, like, unlock your phone. I want to see your call. And look at me like, okay, like, what? And I'm like, well, you said you don't have anything to hide, right?
Right.
I stopped taking that approach because it's a little aggressive, and sometimes people will like bite back. And I don't want to like approach them from like pointing fingers, like, you know, it's kind of like a pointing fingers type thing. So I've started just saying, hey, like, that's actually not what privacy is. Like, privacy is not hiding. And then usually they say, well, yes, it is, because and I will bring up the definition of privacy and I will bring up the definition of hiding, and they're actually different, very different. And they'll say, oh, well, if privacy is not hiding, then what is it? And I just tell them, like, it's natural. Like, you close the door when you go to the bathroom, right? And they're like, oh yeah, I do. So I just took a different angle to it.
Yeah, I think the most concerning part is it's very kind of abstract to understand why it might be a problem if none of us have digital privacy, right? You got to like stop and kind of think about it. If you're like, oh, I got nothing to hide, I'm a good person, and anybody else who's a good person should have nothing to worry about, so all the good people will be fine, and it's just going to expose the criminals. But what they don't realize is kind of the dystopian outcome where you have states surveilling all your data and your information, and then through that basically being able to control you and control society in ways that you can't even really imagine. And so I think it's just, unfortunately, it's just kind of too abstract for people to realize, right? Like the things you're saying, like protecting the minority opinions, minority political opinions. People like it takes some abstract thinking to realize why that might be a problem, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think the issue is, I think it's a compounded issue, right? You can't like point your finger at one thing and be like, you know, this is why the internet sucks. It's difficult to explain because a lot of people don't understand the value of privacy or even security. Since I am in cybersecurity, until that has been forcefully taken from them. So like, I know a lot of people. I had a friend, right? He never locked his door because he said, oh, I live in a good neighborhood. You know, nobody will ever, you know, come to my house. Because, you know, I know everybody, I'm friends with everybody. Lo and behold, long story short, he got burglarized like pretty bad, and they just came in through the front door. So then he was like, oh, he put all these locks on his doors. He had all these cameras. He bought a Ring camera, which drives me crazy. So like, a lot of people don't understand how valuable their privacy or their security is until it's been taken or it's been like grossly violated, where they're like, hold on, like, you know, this is traumatizing. And I think big tech has done a very good job. This isn't a kudos, but a very good job at normalizing it. Because now I'm starting to see a lot of people say, oh, about Twitter, oh, you guys are mad that, Elon is trying to monetize it, but it's free. And I'm like, why are you, you don't have to, just because it's free doesn't mean that they get a free pass to violate you. But since it's so invisible, a lot of people think they're unaffected by it, or think, they're immune to it, and they're not. I think that's the dangerous thing about it.
Yeah, it's scary. It's scary. Ashley, would you be down to jump into the Twitter Spaces to talk to some people if they have some questions?
Yeah, I guess I gotta turn my mic off. I bought this fancy mic and I was very pressed to use it.
Yeah, if you just move over to your phone.
Yeah. A co-host request. So I guess
okay.
Click on that.
Accept that.
We'll smoothly transition.
Yeah, let's see how smooth
it's really bad.
We're always anybody that's in the chat that wants to ask a question, please just request to speak now. I see there's already Lip has already requested. He's become a regular on the show. Anybody else, please request right now, and then we'll bring you up once we move over there. All right.
All right. Gonna put on my cheesy
there,
segment.
Thank you so much.
All righty. It's the Viewers on Stage segment. It's that time where we invite you, the viewers, up on stage to comment on anything you've heard so far today, ask the guest a question, or maybe talk about one of the news topics. Come on down. Too funny. All right, so I'm gonna try to.
You got it running on your end?
Sure. Refresh. Gotta
okay,
log
I'm gonna
in.
move over.
Yeah,
to the
you
space.
can move over,
right.
and I'll. I'm gonna shut off. Oh, I'm gonna transition over.
What's up, guys? Ashley, are you over here? So you're muted. Yeah, I gotcha. All right, that was smoother than most. I think we finally got
Bear
this
with
down.
me, people. I will be logging in.
All right, Lip is requesting. Let me see. Can we get Lip here?
I think it should be.
Anybody else that wants
Okay.
to chime in, please request.
What's up, guys? Ashley, are you over here? So you're muted.
Yeah, can you hear me?
What's going on?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay.
All right, that was smoother than most.
Oh,
We
okay.
finally got this down.
Cool.
All right, Lip is requesting. Let me see.
And when I say I'm looking into a debit card, let me be more specific. So we're just trying to integrate just a universal chip, so it don't have to be issued by like us or a bank. We wanted just to have a chip and an NFC chip, because what we're realizing now is we prefer to store our seed on an NFC chip and just like put it in something that's like tamper proof, opposed to having a seed that could be like guessed. So I just wanted some opinions or anything like that. That's all.
So like my opinion in what way? Sorry.
All right, so like with like the seed, like my opinion is like a 24 to 25 word is like more secure than like a 12 word. Even with quantum computers.
Definitely.
Right. Quantum computers can
Definitely,
even guess stuff. And I like Monero because it has like one of the longest seeds. But you know how technology always advances and everything. So what I'm seeing with different companies, they're getting programmers that know how to program the seed into like an NFC chip. So like when you wanted to do transactions or even send, the only way to do that is to touch the chip to whatever integration that you have. Meaning, instead of storing your seed on your phone every time when you want to hop on an application, instead of like keep on putting it into different phones, that same seed, and now it's more vulnerable, we were looking into like coding that seed into like a code that only like an NFC chip could like save.
I see. It's kind of so there's like I can see the convenience aspect of it. I don't want to say like it's a good idea, because then like run off with that. Like, hey guys, it's
Right,
really
of course, of course.
I think the main issue with that is if you lose the card, you lose your seed. You don't, unless you know the seed and you store it somewhere else. But then I don't know if you're really solving the problem of having the seed in multiple locations, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah, it really depends on how secure the application that is being built that's able to like basically card different chips. So like if that application is very easy to hack, then of course like everything's compromised. So that's why we got to be very specific with the different people that we're about to use for providers.
Yeah, that will definitely come down to the supply chain. Because like if you have multiple parties working on the software, I mean, I can see it. I can get on board with that, honestly. I'd have to like look at the details or like read the details. I'm more of like a reader. But I mean, I can see how that could be useful in the real world, because you don't have to carry your your phone everywhere you go, to be able to make a transaction and stuff like that. So I think that's a pretty good idea in theory. As long as I think the general OPSEC rules would apply to that. So yeah, I think just general OPSEC would make that like a pretty viable solution, assuming you also don't lose it.
Right, understatement. So yeah, I've been networking with a couple people, and I even reached out to Kate. They reached back, but it's not just about that. It's about actually getting developers that know how to code certain things that are like tamper-proof. So it's a long process. It's nothing that's gonna happen tomorrow.
I think it's a pretty neat idea. But yeah, you need the biggest thing is securing the seeds. Yeah, it's who it would be securing the seeds wherever they're stored. Because if anybody gets access to them, then you're kind of in trouble.
Right, it would defeat the purpose.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, I'm gonna keep on networking with a couple of people. I try to send you a friend request or whatever you call it on the Twitter space.
Okay. Yeah. I'm usually on Mastodon, actually. I cross post from Twitter to Mastodon, but only certain posts. But yeah, I'm on Twitter, I think, reasonably.
Yeah, there's so many platforms. I just got in Discord, but I'm gonna let anybody else talk, and I'll talk to Doug probably later.
Lip, thank you so much, man. Anybody that's interested in what he's working on, hit him up. Hit Lip up. Sebastian, what's going on?
Hey guys, I'm doing good. Thank you for letting me speak here. I had a question for AvoidtheHack. I didn't catch the conversation from the beginning, but I was wondering if you have any experience with hardware wallets, and if you use any.
I do not. Personally, I know that sounds bad. I just use Cake Wallet on my phone. I'm not I only recently got into kind of like the cryptocurrency space. To be honest, 2 years ago, I didn't even know what Monero was. And I kind of linked up with Seth for Privacy, and I've been in a couple of his spaces, and he explained it to me, and I'm like, oh, okay, this sounds like pretty legit. So So I don't really have any recommendations for you. I'm sorry. Sorry. I just thought I don't have any for you.
Yeah, I was just wondering because some people have very different opinions over hardware wallets. I have experience with a couple, but from what I've heard, some advanced users talk about them is that there's no there's a possible risk that people have by using hardware wallets, especially if the hardware wallet is made by a private company. There's a huge risk that people have for holding their funds in those hardware wallets, and usually they promote more the super advanced users. They usually promote more of the true offline wallets without any hardware involved, just a offline computer, air gapped.
Yeah, I can see that because you can set up a wallet on any computer and just keep it off the network. But yeah, I don't really. Sorry, I don't really. I'm not like I'm still learning myself, honestly.
Sorry,
Monero. Chad, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Sorry, this is actually a really important topic, which is why I took on stage. It's really important for people to be very safe and secure about their assets and their tokens that they're holding. And so, almost every security expert that I know, and I have quite a few friends in this space, will almost always tell you to use a hardware wallet over something on your phone, right? No beef with fake wallet or anything. Sure, it's a great wallet, but always especially for large amounts of funds, always use a hardware wallet, and it's air gapped. So please, people, make sure your hardware is up to date. Never buy a hardware wallet on like eBay or Amazon. Buy directly from the retailer. Always, and please keep your capital. It's much more secure. Please.
Chad, what do you think? I don't know if you're familiar with it, but Monero's, I think it's called the Sidekick project. I don't think they finished it yet, but basically they're developing a way to kind of turn any old Android phone that's not connected to the internet essentially into a hardware wallet. So it holds the keys, and then your wallet that is connected to the internet on another phone, so your Monero app, could then get the keys signed by this sidekick, essentially acting as a hardware, turning a Android phone effectively into a hardware wallet. I'm just curious if you have any opinion on that.
I mean, that doesn't really add any additional security that a ledger or a Trezor or one of these kind of characters already give you, right? They're still requesting something you sign, in which case you have to actually take the action to sign it on a separate device. So I don't see that as very useful. In fact, I'd probably say it's less secure just because of the hardware on an Android is not the same as the type of security that you have on a dedicated device like a ledger or something similar to it. So I would say I'd stay away from it, especially because even if it is just a safe, it's new. It hasn't been solidified, hasn't been tested, hasn't been hardened. Go for something that's been around for a long period of time. It's proven security, proven to be reliable.
I wonder about a project like that. You have a lot more ability to be more versatile with the coins that you offer, perhaps getting your updates more often, more quickly. Although if you're continually offline, how are you going to get updates onto your Android device? So I guess I would personally have those questions. There seems to be some potential that maybe you could have better access to more coins and more functionality than you would with a hardware wallet. But I don't know. What do you think about that?
That's fair. And to be honest, even though Ledger's the kind of the leading hardware manufacturer right now, I also have a personal hate for them just because it's all closed source. They control everything. I've worked with them personally to try to get apps built or supporting of at least the root token, which is the one I'm part of. But it's a huge pain in the ass. It takes so much time. It's so difficult. I fucking hate Ledger for that reason. But to be objective,
The Monero app still has a bug that when you're sending funds out of the ledger, the confirmation address on the ledger screen is incorrect. I wonder if that bug still exists. But I remember a lot of people complaining about it because one of the big advantages is for you to compare the sending address on your computer or phone and on the hardware wallet screen. And I've heard a lot of people complain that it would always show the wrong address and they would be all paranoid. And some people would willingly choose not to send any Monero out of their ledger until it's fixed because they're afraid they're gonna lose the funds.
I mean, I've never personally seen that in the years that I've been using her wallets, many years of using her wallets. I've never heard of that personally. And if that was an issue that did exist, that would be, fixed in a heartbeat for obvious reasons. So if that is a problem that somebody else is experiencing, then just update yourself and avoid this. And you should always keep up to the chip for these things. It's really important.
Chad, while I have you here, is there any update we could get on ThorChain with regards to potentially integrating with Monero? I know there were some bumps in the road with the community essentially not wanting to deal with privacy coins. What's kind of the latest in there? I haven't really been following it.
Well, so I think the community is all for adding privacy. I think that's always been true. The question more about is ThorChain ready for it, right? So the fear is if ThorChain adds Monero support, which I would love to see happen, that would garner new scrutiny from certain alphabet soup agencies, and people kind of ask the question of are we decentralized enough as a protocol to to withstand such threats? And so people have different ideas. I mean, we're decentralized enough that any cloud provider in the world could shut us down, and that wouldn't affect the actual network itself, which is good. But I think the end goal is still to do it. I think there's a lot of support to get it done. Originally, the code was being written by the Haven team, but the code quality wasn't quite there for what we needed. So one of our devs kind of broke off with another dev to work on the Haven implementation themselves, just dedicated full time, fixated on that kind of feature. So that's been underway for the last maybe month or two or so, something like this. But it's still something that the community's definitely behind it. The top two most requested coins are chains right now is Bawdyanarchist Smart Chain and Monero. So I still think it's going to happen. I'm definitely going to push for it to happen. I mean, to have a decentralized way without KYC or any of these things to get in and out of Monero would be, would be huge, would be massive. At liquidity, at volume.
Yeah, that's why I asked. I think we would all obviously love to see it. Any chance we could get ThorChain to participate in Monerotopia again? We're doing it down in Mexico City in May. We'd love to have you guys down there again in some capacity, maybe talk about the latest updates, the roadmap towards implementing Monero.
Yeah, sure, maybe. Let me poke around the devs and such and see if there's any interest in somebody coming out to do a talk or something of the like.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Thank you for joining us here.
Hey, you're welcome.
Do we have any examples of the Fed boys targeting Monero infrastructure?
No, but there's a reason why that is. So the only reason why OFAC blacklisted Tornado Cash is not because it's a mixer, right? Or it's got privacy or these things. It's because $6 billion of money went towards the Lazarus Group, which is a North Korean organization. So they don't really give two shits if nobody's using it, right? And in Monero's case, you can't really use it as a mixer in a sense because it's really hard to get any kind of volume. Sorry for the you can't really get any volume in and out of Monero without using a centralized entity. And if you use a centralized entity, then you have KYC, and that becomes a no-go for organizations and such. But once ThorChain supports it, well, now you have a methodology of moving large volumes of Monero, in and out. So that might cause governments to take a look at it. You know what I mean?
Does that mean that the government is more likely to go after the liquidity provider rather than the actual the Monero blockchain itself? Because it seems like that would be an easier target than Monero itself. Because even if they tried a 51% attack, there's CPUs everywhere.
Yeah, I personally don't think that governments will come after specific chains, including Monero, for that matter. they may come after like exchanges, and they're gonna want to come after Tornado Cash or want to come after Uniswap or these kind of things, but those things really won't be fruitful for them. They'll have to just control everything at the dollar level, the USD level. I don't really consider that to be much of a threat personally, but maybe I should.
The only reason I consider it a threat is, maybe if we went back 10 years ago or something, you wouldn't expect them to be doing what they're doing with Tor. Do you know what I mean? Hosting exit nodes and, trying to de-anonymize people that way. But once something becomes that big of a threat, and if you look at the deep web in their marketplaces, or so I hear, I don't really check them out, but majority of them either only accept Monero or primarily accept Monero. So obviously, if we're seeing that sort of adoption, that amount of money going through it, and then supporting things that the government isn't really a fan of, that's the only reason I'd be concerned is as soon as it becomes a big enough thorn in their side, they've got basically unlimited resources because, they steal everyone's money to go after you, or the chain itself, I should say.
Yeah, maybe. It's kind of hard to get that, but it's very well possible, or likely, actually, even say that they, sorry, you can't hear me, noise in the street. The reason why the government, likely the government already looked at, I'm just going to pause a little bit because the noise is too loud, sorry.
Yeah, it's a little loud right now, chat. A little hard to hear you. We definitely want to hear what you're saying.
It's very muffled and low.
Yeah, let me get on the area and I'll come back to you.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
Hi, guys. In the meantime, if you have any questions on YouTube for Ashley or for anybody, I can actually read them for you, and then Ashley or whoever is going to answer it. But someone actually did ask Ashley, Anan Mon, ask her what she thinks about of Graphene OS versus Lineage, please. Thank you.
That's easy. Graphene all the way. So I'm a little bit of I'm actually an iPhone user. I have my reasons. It's not because I just have my reasons. But Graphene versus Lineage, Graphene blows Lineage out the water. Now, if we're talking about Graphene versus like Divest OS, which is a fork of Lineage, it's a little bit of a closer race, but Graphene is still the overall winner. Graphene has it gives you pretty much complete control over the phone, and it maintains vanilla Androids. Like I'm talking not Google Android, but I'm talking about the actual like open source Android like project. It maintains the security chain all the way up into runtime. Whereas Lineage actually breaks that. And most forks of Lineage break that.
Buddy, go ahead, chime in on that.
So at the risk of starting a flame war between Firefox and maybe like ungoogled Chromium, I was wondering, Ashley, what you thought about Daniel McKay and what they have on the Graphene OS website, where they talk about Chromium as basically one of the more secure implementations of a web browser. It might not be private because they have all the calls that go back to Google, but Vandium, for example, which is the Graphene OS web browser, they forked that from Chromium, pulled out all the Google stuff, and the things that I've read about it say that they have greater sandboxing, greater security implementation, just overall in general in Chromium, whereas Firefox is kind of lagging behind a lot of these security improvements. So what do you think about that? Have you ever tried ungoogled Chromium? And also kind of along with that, what do you think about Mozilla being funded by Google, and if there might be any conflicts of interest there?
Okay, a lot of questions. I'll try to do it one by one.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. I've never argued that. I know there's Firefox stands that have, and I'm a Firefox stan. More like a Gecko stan, right? They're not wrong. Like it's not. I've never argued that Firefox is more secure than Chromium, but when it comes to the user experience and being able to tweak it for privacy, without relying on someone else to do that in the source code for you, it's better on that front. So yeah, I completely agree with that. Chromium sandboxing is better on just about every device than Firefox. But then you also run into the issue of, I don't want to say what are you doing to need such strong sandboxing, but yeah, I mean, Chromium is more secure. That isn't more private, in my opinion. No, because you need someone to go into the source code and be able to make it more private, because there's a lot of stuff built into Chromium, not Chrome, but Chromium, the actual Chromium browser from Google, that you just can't disable. Like you can't without going to the source code, modifying it, the other question, sorry, what was your other question?
I guess it was about on Google Chromium, and then, well, I guess you kind of addressed that, but just more specifically about Mozilla, they seem to have kind of taken a more winding path, you know, like they seem to have a lot of social agendas these days, instead of just being focused on the browser implementation.
Yeah, so real quick to double back on Google Chromium, I actually have a couple of write-ups on it. I think it's a great browser. I'm actually very impressed with the project, how they actually keep up with Chromium updates, because that's the issue with forks, right? Is that sometimes they lag behind the upstream, and if they lag behind too much, you start missing security updates, and then you leave yourself open to potential exploitation through vulnerabilities that are otherwise patched. I think the issue with it is the issue is just getting normies to use it. It requires a lot, even though it comes pretty much out the box without any Google connections. Like installing extensions can be a pain because there's a workaround. You have to do a workaround for that. And there's a lot of people that don't even want to tweak settings within the browser itself. And now we're asking them, hey, you got to install this browser to be able to install extensions at all on it. Now with Mozilla and Google, I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. I still despise that Google is the default search engine from Firefox for Firefox. And I think there's a little bit of a conflict of interest there, because Google is paying them to be the default because Google wants to maintain its monopoly. And on the flip side, I think this is my opinion, I think a lot of people working that aren't necessarily leadership working in Mozilla probably don't agree with it, but it's kind of like, how else are we going to pay the bills, because they're a nonprofit. So I think that's why they're taking this winding path, because maybe they're trying to diversify. Maybe I'm looking at it with rose-colored lenses. Maybe they're trying to find a way, hey, how can we fund ourselves, sustain ourselves without being so reliant on pretty much our competition, keeping us afloat.
Solid take. I appreciate you taking the time there. One thing that it occurred to me that some of the listeners, so the difference between Chrome and Chromium. Chromium is the open source browser that Google puts out, and then anyone can take that and modify it. Whereas Chrome has some components that are closed source. So it's basically Chromium, but it's also like Google's closed source take on Chromium. And then you have a whole bunch of different forks that happen from Chromium, stuff like Bawdyan, which is the Graphene OS browser, ungoogled Chromium, Iridium, and a few others.
Great info, guys. Amazing. Robbie, what do you got?
Yeah, I've got a question about, you were mentioning that you're like an Apple user and you've got your reasons. I just want your opinion on something, because I don't use Apple app. Funny enough, I use Graphene on my phone, but there was recently they released, is it lockdown mode or something? Is that out yet? And have you had any experience with it? And what's your opinion? Because I hear it's actually pretty good.
Yeah, lockdown mode is pretty neat. so I've used it. I don't use it in my day to day. I know this is blasphemy. Like I kind of treat my phone like a terminal, so I try not to keep a lot of personal info on it, which is hard because it's a phone, right? But lockdown mode is pretty good. It actually has some of the, if you don't want to cross over into Android and then go the graphene route, it has pretty good fingerprint protection. It's pretty good, like for what it is on a closed source operating system that is iOS. For what it is, it's good for what it is. But if you need more, you need to move off of iOS. There's no other way.
So that's answered my question. I've always had the opinion that iOS is really good if you're just a normal person. You don't want to get. I don't like using the term normie. I always feel like I'm being like elitist. But
Yeah, same here.
it's really good for the normies because they can hop on, they can do their thing, and they don't really need to worry about it too much. And Apple's kind of walked back their whole scanning all your pictures thing and all of that, which is pretty good. I'd imagine it's because they end up losing market share if they did do that.
Yeah. So there was some security researchers came out a couple months ago, and Apple. So I've always had my suspicions, right? They're marketing from the privacy front, so they're not. The thing with Apple versus Google, Google's going to collect your data and sell it and keep it for themselves. So iOS actually collects quite a bit of information. Like they tie a unique ID to every Apple ID that uses an Apple device. I'll try to find a link for you guys. It was some really interesting research, but it's not as private as we think. But is it better than running Google's flavor of Android? I'd argue yes. But is it at all on Graphene's level? Absolutely not. And there's a ceiling to how private you can make iOS is the main issue.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's another question that just popped into my head, and it's just popped right out. Crap. If I remember, I'll come back.
Happens to me all the time.
In the meantime, we have one more question from YouTube from Josue Yuman. Hello, I have a question to Ashley regarding using Monero on Tails. Is it recommended to use the encrypted persistent partition, or is better to manage the Monero wallet for the moment and erase OS data?
From a completely objective standpoint, in the sense is I don't know your threat model, Tails exists to be erased. So if you enable encrypted partition, sure, it's encrypted. Sure, someone needs to know the password, have the keys to decrypt it, but you're kind of defeating the purpose of Tails. So I'll lean more towards manage it for the moment and then just let Tails do its thing.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Robbie, go ahead.
Yeah, so I remembered my question, and I'm not sure if you'll know this or not, but if someone gets physical hold of your device, I know there's tools out there that they can use, and I'm talking about like your phone. There's tools that they can use to pull the data off the phone. I know it's a little bit harder with Apple devices. Do you know what that's like for the like graphene and like those sort of flavors of like Android that's been hardened, and if it is any harder, or because I've tried to research it and I haven't found a ton.
Is it harder? It's kind of difficult to say because now we're kind of getting, these are more physical threats, right? So Graphene OS's threat model primarily focuses on combating 0 days. We don't necessarily consider a 0 day to be a physical threat. So that might be more of a question for Mr. McKay, who manages the graphene project. I don't want to say yes or no, but I know graphene's like their threat model isn't as focused on physical threat, because I feel like once you lost that, once the device is taken from you, you know you've lost agency of the device. So it's kind of like, maybe you can wipe it remotely, but I don't know of a phone that doesn't really have that function. So it's kind of hard for me to say. I've talked with I've had conversations with McKay. I can ask him. I'm happy to defer. He's very knowledgeable about operating systems and stuff like that.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Is that the same person who runs the graphene Twitter? Is that the same person that would be?
Yeah, he generally manages it. Yeah, I'll just ask him. Now he might send me a long thread about all this stuff, but I'll ask him.
Yeah, no, he's lovely. I think I've spoken to him a few times in DMs before. That's fantastic. Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Robbie, always a pleasure, man. And thank you with helping out with Monerotopia so far. Robbie's been helping us out a little bit behind the scenes, trying to market it, get the word out. Who else we got? Anybody else want to chime in? Any other questions? All right, guys. I think we'll wrap it up. Ashley, thank you so much. This was amazing.
Thank you.
This is one of our better spaces. This was great. Greatly appreciate it. Any last words you want to put out there? Any information you want people to know? We're obviously AvoidtheHack. What is it? Is it AvoidtheHack.com? Give your URL,
yes,
etc.
Get the word out. It's AvoidtheHack.com. I thank you guys. I hope I've shared some knowledge. I know the Monero community tends to be more of like the techies. So I hope I've answered questions to your satisfaction. I'm pretty reachable on Mastodon and Twitter. You can also email me. But yeah, I hope everybody stays as private and secure as possible. And, we're really in this fight together because your privacy actually affects my privacy. So.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I know. I personally learned a lot today. I'm Monero focused, but I don't implement the best privacy practices in all other tech usage. So for me personally, it was very informative. Greatly appreciate it. You broke it down nicely.
Well, thank you. My specialty is web exploitation. So if you guys got any questions on that front, I got you. But yeah. But if it's like cryptocurrency, hey, I'm a noob. So.
We're all noobs about most things, right? We can only concentrate on so much.
I know a lot about a little.
And it was a pleasure talking. I send everybody that's okay a friend request or whatever, and make sure you check out what I sent you, Doug.
Will do, man. Will do. Thank you, Lip. Thank you, everybody. Anybody who's just kind of listening for the first time, we do these shows every week. We're throwing a conference down in Mexico City. It's a Monero conference. Did our first one in Miami last year. This one is in Mexico City. Super accessible, very cheap once you get down there. We have an amazing conference set up so far. It's just kind of getting better and better by the day. So if you go to Monerotopia.com, you can get tickets. Super cheap. It's like $99 for general admission. And we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much, guys. Cheers. Everybody have a good weekend.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Monerotopia episode. We stream live shows every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can find and subscribe to our show on YouTube and Odyssey, or listen to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or join us in the Monerotopia Telegram group. See you all next week. You can find and subscribe to our show on YouTube and Odyssey, or listen to the podcast